It's time to chat some more cricket with SEN's very own Adam Collins.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Hey. Yes, I am. Yes, going nicely. How are you? Happy New Year, preemptively.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Very, very preemptive. Now, we've spent like the first hour talking nothing but cricket. Talk us through your last year. Is that all it is?
Yeah, I follow the sun, which is a privilege to do that. So I'm quite lucky that I live in the UK, live in London, so I spend the majority of my year there. But when Australia are playing Test cricket around the world, I tend to be where it is at, or major tournaments as well. So it's a privileged position to talk about cricket for a living and never see many winters.
Adam, I get in trouble off the missus for watching too much cricket. You just done 5 straight working there. It's the 6th day, the day after the test, and you're on the radio talking about cricket. I imagine we're not the only person you're talking to. Are you in the good books with the missus at the moment? How's it sitting?
Always juggling. Never say no when a producer from SEN says, "Can you jump on for a few minutes?" Like, yep, that's fine. Happy to do the right thing and do the team thing. If it's good enough for Jared to be doing some stuff this morning, it's good enough for me. So we all do our bit the day after a test match. And of course, we've got another one starting on Friday. So it's not as though we're out of cycle quite yet. So it doesn't matter that it's New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. As far as we're concerned, the people that work in the game, that is, it's just mid-series, and there are playing days and there's non-playing days, and when it's all over, I'll get on a flight back to London, take a couple of weeks off, then head to Sri Lanka after that. So that's the rhythm these things tend to work in.
I love that. You just mentioned Christmas Day. It was a bit Christmas Day yesterday for Australian cricket fans, wasn't it?
It did feel that way, didn't it? It was so special rocking up at the G. Like, I've been going to the MCG since I was 3 or 4 years old, and you got these memories that now go back decades about special days when there are literally tens of thousands of people outside the G. The outside the G thing of itself is special because it's so noisy, and it's that sense of expectation. Yesterday, I mean, sure, it wasn't AFL Grand Final day, I'll quite like that, but, knowing there was going to be upwards of 70,000, I think it came in at 75,000 for day 5 of a test match, everyone paying $10 to get in, had its own vibe as well, and knowing that all 4 results were on the table, at least before play started, added to it too. So by the time we got to the final session, I had mates who were rocking up at tea, who were like, well, I'm going to see the end of this test match no matter what, coming straight from work in town and that type of thing. So it felt like the type of test match where everyone just needed to be there. They were compelled to be there. And hopefully there's a similar response from the Sydney crowd this week. We tend to have far, far smaller crowds at Sydney, even accounting for it being a smaller ground. It's very rare that Sydney gets sold out on days 1, 2 and 3. So hopefully with India here and the series still live, the Sydney crowd do as Melbourne did this week.
I know as an Aussie, I certainly sort of default to my favourite test memories being an Ashes test or an Ashes series. And I know you've watched an awful lot of cricket in your lifetime, but where does that one rank in terms of like the all-time greats? Because it was right up there.
Yeah, I was doing this last night with a colleague, actually, trying to work out where it sat for best Australian victories and best test matches we've been to and that type of thing. It's certainly right up there in the modern era, I reckon. If you just looked at the scorecards, like I've got some colleagues who live in the UK, and we're like, well, how could a test match might it have been, had Australia been bowled out late day 4, chasing 270, maybe if India didn't shut up shop so early. All those things can be true, as well as it being true that it was a compelling 4.5, nearly 5 days anyway, got to the final session, didn't it? So Australia winning inside the final hour. Any test where there are multiple results in the frame with an hour to go is by definition a very, very good test match. So infrequently the case. We were having a bit of a debate about 4-day test cricket only a fortnight ago or 3 weeks ago when Australia knocked over India inside, was it 7 sessions at Adelaide or something like that? And I get where that comes from. I'm not completely averse to 4-day test cricket where you can use it to increase series from 2 matches to 3. The proliferation of 2 test match series, I hate that. It's rubbish. You want to have a minimum of 3. And if 4-day test matches can be used to facilitate that, well, okay, I'll accept it there. But these high-profile series where you're having 3 or 4 or indeed 5 test matches being played, duking it out across 5 days, there's nothing better in sport. So, yeah, this was, I think the win at Edgbaston last year was better than this win, remembering that Australia won at about 7:20 at night, 8 wickets down with Cummins and Lyon putting on 54 wickets for the 9th wicket in the last hour of play. So that was better than this one. but this is in the conversation for the best Australian win and best all-round chaotic test match. It felt like we had about 10 news points every day, including the DRS controversy yesterday that fueled us between times. One of the great things about Test cricket is overnight, and we got 4 great overnights full of controversy, which fueled the conversation each day on the coverage.
Adam, I love your commentary. You're loud when there's a wicket, and I'm a lot like that in the house when there's a wicket. In fact, let's have a listen to a little bit of your amazing commentary right now.
New over away from us. His second spell, he's into it here. Bowls to Rohit Sharma. Catch! Is the call has taken a gully. Mitch Marsh had to juggle it. It was a leading edge. It wasn't an easy catch. Went straight to him, went quickly, held onto it, played his role. Rohit Sharma's gone for 9. Pat Cummins gets the breakthrough.
It was brilliantly taken for Mitch Marsh.
Absolutely brilliant stuff. What I noticed, I saw that on the SEN socials, and I'd never occurred to me before, having not been in a commentary box before, how close you are to all the other media franchises. So there's another radio station right next to you. Are they ever banging on the window going, Adam, keep it down, mate?
Well, they're next door to us from where our shop was in Melbourne. This is totally behind the curtain here. Is Triple M, and they're louder than we are in terms of the weight because they're quite parochial. Yes, we're loud, and I think that what I think my personal view is what makes us a little bit different to some of the other commentaries is that we're fiercely backing the story and backing the game. And everyone does that in their own way, but I don't think there's a lot of parochialism in the way that we commentate the game. I don't feel I do anyway, and I don't think Jared does either, and nor our experts who just love the game so much. I think with some former players, those who don't commentate maybe do other things, even indeed some people who do commentate, but mostly you see this with former players who sit one out, one back. They were very good at cricket, but they don't love it in their bones in quite the same way. There's a bit of a diffident, if you're too much of a cricket badger, there must be something wrong with you vibe about those people. There's none of that in our box. We're all cricket badgers. We're all nuffies, be it Flem or Caddo, or we had Tommy Morris with us the last couple of weeks, Jared, myself. We love it. Ravi Shastri, Bharat Sundaresan, we love every minute of it. So part of the enthusiasm, I think, that comes through in the call is that we are just so privileged to be there. We appreciate the privilege of being there, love Test cricket more than anything in the world, and love the fact that we get to narrate that in the last 5 days case, a test that went 15 sessions, which doesn't happen too often. So, yeah, day 5, we would have gone up the register multiple times. The 7 for 34 collapse, it would have been pretty loud, but that will be the same across the radio row we have there with Triple M and the ABC as well.
And we need to talk Blazers as well. So the SEN cricket team have all got your own Blazer. I believe there was first, what number are you? What's embroidered on yours? Do you wear it whilst calling the whole time?
And the shops, do you wear it at the shops as well? Yeah.
And I can't tell you how much interest there was from our colleagues. I wouldn't say competitors. That doesn't feel like a competitive environment with radio. It feels like we're all kind of in it together. But there was a lot of interest from some of the other teams like, whoa, look at these blokes rocking up in their Blazers on day 1 at Perth. I tend to wear it on comms because it looks so bloody good. Because we know those clips. You don't play to the camera because you'd be silly to because it affects your commentary. But those clips go out on social media and they look good, right? The Blazers are quality. Henley Holmes have been amazing supporters of SEN Test cricket since the very start in 2018. And having the Henley branding on the Blazers is a lovely thing. I'm number 4. I think it was... I don't quite know how we arrived on the numbers, but I was in the first SEN team in South Africa in 2018. It was myself and Jared and Kat and a couple of others. So I think we've got numbers that are quite low. Jared's number 1, of course, being captain of the side, so to speak, captain of the SEN team. If you want to call it that in cricket terms. But then we've got, I think Caddo's number 2, Flemo might be 3. And I'm myself in at 4, and I'm very happy there, like Mark Waugh.
Are you saying there might be a potential for a little DRS review? You should be bumped up the order there. Maybe you've been robbed to be low as number 4.
Less that. I think our number 3, if I'm being strictly true to the order that people comment, Brendan Julian was one of our experts in South Africa. He would have been on before I would have been on, but I don't think BJ's done a series with us since. He might have done one more, but no, BJ's a TV-only guy these days. He does Fox Sports, so... but yeah, we've got had Caddo since the start, and of course Jared and myself. So it's a really cool thing that we've kept that team together as well. I think that's the other thing with our broadcast. We know each other so well. We've worked with each other for a long time. So we've gelled over the years, and it feels like clockwork when we slot into the box next to each other.
Yesterday I tried to talk to my wife about cricket porn. I think she only, Adam, heard the second part of this term that I was trying to say to her. But I'd love to talk to you about this because I know, as a cricket nufty, how much I loved the over prior Mitchell Starc bowled to Virat Kohli, where he just bowled not gentle, but he was just toiling away at the in-swing, really cramping him up. And then the next over, he just let him have it with one outside the off stump, and he got him. I just sat there and I'm like, oh, this is as good as it gets, cricket.
Yeah, classic setup, wasn't it? Knowing that the secret to Kohli's success when he's enjoyed it in the last few years, and there's been less of it. He had a pretty good 2023, but a reduction in returns probably since the pandemic, if you want to go back to 2019-20 when he first started to decline. Where he's had his problems is when he can't help himself chasing balls outside the line of the off stump. It's like a superhero having this superpower and it becoming his kryptonite type of thing, because Kohli's cover drive is about the most beautiful thing in cricket when he's nailing it. And he's never been able to break it'd be too much to say break the addiction to it, but break the compulsion to play it, even though with his advancing years in cricket terms, I think he's 36 now, that has been what's gotten him out more often than not. So what you saw there was Starc bowling to Kohli to an extent, but making sure that Kohli had to make really good decisions on the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th stump line, because that often is where Kohli gets in trouble. And yeah, first ball of the last over before lunch was a classic tempter. Outside the line, the type of ball that you could crunch away for 4. If you're in pristine nick, you could cover drive that. But Starc bowled it intentionally, knowing that the way Kohli's been going out there, it was just as likely to reap a reward for him. Perfect setup. The type of thing that fast bowlers love is when a plan comes to fruition. And likely that's the last innings we'll see of Virat Kohli in international cricket at Melbourne, a ground where he's got a big Test 100 in 2014, one of the best T20 innings ever played in 2022 in that World Cup against Pakistan. A bit of a shame that there was some boos ringing out, but I get it as well. I know what was going on between Kohli and Constas on day one was inevitably going to lead to him becoming the villain of sorts again, as he used to be on former tours of Australia when he was captain, when he used to be a bit more fiery. The setup from Starc was to die for.
And looking forward to the Sydney Test now. We touched on it briefly just before, but what are the any anticipated changes in your mind, Adam, as we look forward?
I think it just depends on realistically how Starc pulls up. There's this back rib thing going on with him. A couple of times during the Test match, he received attention on that. He told us in the pre-game on day 4 that he was totally fine and his pace was up. And in fairness to Starc, the way he bowled on morning 5 was just outstanding. That first spell was as good as it gets. And in his second spell, he picks up Kohli before lunch. By his 4th or 5th spells, deeper in the day, you could see he was struggling again, at least a little bit. You could see the grimace on his face and reaching for his back and that type of thing. So if Starc pulls up fine, he's a resilient guy. You've got to remember that backing up from Test match to Test match is never easy. It's even harder when you're a fast bowler. It's an even harder task when you're going from Test 4 to Test 5. And you layer on top of that only 3-day turnaround, and they bowled on day 5. So that stacks against him. But what is in favour of Starc is that he knows his body better than anybody. He's been doing this for a very long time. So if Starc were to play, then I suspect there'll be minimal changes. If Starc doesn't play, I can see a world where one change might bring 2, and I'll explain why. If Starc isn't fit to go, Jyhe Richardson is the other fast bowler in the squad, and Richardson's got his own issues with his body. He's a terrific bowler. He reminds me of Dale Steyn with the way Jyhe Richardson lets the ball go and swings it both ways at pace. Similar height as well. But if they want to have a little bit of insurance for Jyhe Richardson, I think that's the world where Sean Abbott comes in as not just a bowler, but as an all-rounder. And that might be where Mitchell Marsh finds himself in a bit of strife. Mitchell Marsh has been badly out of nick through the series with the bat and throughout 2024, if we're really honest. He played one important innings at Christchurch batting with Alex Carey on the final day there, but that feels an eternity ago in Test cricket terms. He made runs in the second dig at Perth when the game was gone, but since then at Brisbane, Melbourne and Adelaide, he's been missing out consistently. So if they want to have Richardson replacing Starc in that world, I can see the scenario where they want to have the strength of Abbott, who could credibly play as one of the 3 starting quicks, but having that balance of the attack, and someone who at domestic cricket has batted as high as 6. And Sean Abbott, I cover his career for Surrey as well. It's what I do in the other half of the year, commentating in England, and he's an exceptional batter at first-class level, batting often as high as 6 or 7. So yeah, I can see a world where Carey gets promoted, Abbott slots in at 7, or alternatively, Beau Webster, who's been in the squad for the last 3 test matches as cover for Mitchell Marsh. Well, Webster's earned a chance to play for Australia at some stage based on the numbers he's posted for Tasmania and for Australia A with bat and ball over the last couple of years. So he'd be a very worthy recipient of a baggy green if they wanted to make a straight swap with Marsh and Webster. Mindful there's so much on the line for Australia. I mean, I know they're 2-1 up, but if India square the ledger this week, they retain the trophy, which will sting from here. And also Australia, if they win at Sydney, they sew up their berth in the World Test Championship final, which for this particular group of Aussie players means an awful lot. Having won it 2 years ago, they'd love the chance to defend that trophy at Lord's on the 11th of June.
Yeah, we can't wait. Adam, we could chat to you for hours about cricket. I know you could sit there and talk about it for hours as well. We're going to have to let you go to get back in the good books with the wife. Hopefully, hopefully you're not too far from hanging the microphone up. But good luck with the call in the 5th test, and good luck with everything coming your way in 2025. Thanks for joining the summer run home.
Thanks, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, mate.
You're still here? We'll see more on the Joel and Fletch socials and catch us live on SEN Radio. Because if you don't, you're an A grade. But if you do, you're the absolute Mickey.